Welcome to the Northern Waters Museum for LOLA Readers Theater. So happy that you are here, Judy. We have a very special guest today. This is an evening that is too good to be true. We changed the title from a mystery in the museum because we had other things that we were doing. So we thought that we would change the title to talk about our entire evening. I hope that you saw in the program that there is a flip side, thanking a lot of people and also letting the audience know how this all came about. So that way I wouldn't have to stand up here and tell all of you. We hope you enjoy the show tonight. We hope that you enjoy the zombie crawl on Saturday. And we hope also that you will buy some bread solo cups after this production. Thank you for coming. We appreciate it. We've worked hard. Thanks a lot.
Haunted by Siegfield Sassoon. By way of introduction, Sassoon was a British author and poet who was also an officer in the British military during World War I. And he served on the Western Front, was wounded twice, and received the medals for valor. During his recuperation back in England, he started writing. And after his second time he was wounded and back recuperating from those wounds, he became a very active peace activist. Haunted. Evening was in the wood, gloomy with storm. A time of drought had sucked the weedy pool and baked the channels. Birds had done with song. Thirst was a dream of fountains in the moon, or willow music blown across the water, leisurely sliding by the dam and mill. Uneasy was the man who wandered, brooding, his face a little whiter than the dusk. A drone of sultry wings flickered in his head. The end of sunset burning through the boughs died in a smear of red. Exhausted hours cumbered and ugly sorrows hemmed him in. He thought, somewhere there's thunder. As he strove to shake off the dread, he dared not look behind him, but stood, the sweat of horror on his face. He blundered down a path, trampling on thistles. In a sudden race to leave the ghostly trees, soon I'll be in the open fields, he thought, and half-remembered starlight on the meadows, scent of mown grass and voices of tired men, fading along the field paths, home and sleep and cool swept upland spaces, whispering leaves and far off the long chirping nighthawk's note. But something in the wood, trying to daunt him, led him confused in circles through the thicket. He was forgetting his old wretched folly, and freedom was his need. His throat was choking, Barb brambles gripped and clawed him around his legs, and he floundered over snags and hidden stumps, mumbling, I will get out, I must get out, butting and thrusting up the baffling gloom, pausing to listen in a space twixt thorns. He peers around with peering, frantic eyes. An evil creature in the twilight looping flapped blindly in his face. Beating it off, he screeched in terror, and straightway something clambered heavily from an oak and dropped, bent double, to shamble to him, zigzag, squat, and bestial. Headlong he charges down the wood and falls, with roaring brain, agony, the snapped spark, and blots of green and purple in his eyes. Then the slow fingers groping on his neck, and at his heart the strangling clasp of death.
the light of the silvery moon, I want to spoon to my honey I'll croon love's true honeymoon. Keep a shining in June. Your silvery beams will bring love's dreams. We'll be cuddling soon by the silvery moon.
By the light
Not the dark, but the light.
of the silvery moon,
Not the sun, but the moon.
I want to spoon
Not knife, but spoon.
to my honey I'll croon
Croon love's tune.
honeymoon.
Not the sun, but the moon.
Keep a shining in June.
Not May, but June.
Your silvery
Beams will bring love's dreams. We'll be cuddling soon. Not later, but soon.
by the silvery moon.
Not the golden moon.
Sarah? Sarah? Sarah! Oh, sugar. Come out here right now. Jeez, Kunsky, don't get your knickers in a knot. We've got plenty of time. My name is Mary Elizabeth King. And you know darn well that John and I changed our name from Kunsky to King in 1936, a year before we bought Harrington's gas station and food stand and turned it into the King's Gateway Inn. What took you so long to get here?
Oh, just looking into all the nooks and crannies of this great old ski chalet. And
Sarah King, Shug. You know that this building was moved from the original hill decades ago and is now the Northern Waters Museum.
makes no difference to me, because I hear there's going to be some going-ons tonight that just can't be explained.
What would my husband John think?
Well, my husband, he was your husband first. Well, he would think progress has been made. After all, he was a media mogul who owned and operated over 20 movie theaters in Detroit by 1928. And he...
Now, in 1928? That's my part of the story. By 1937, he was coming to the Sylvania to hunt and fish in order to blow off steam. That's when he heard that Harrington was ready to sell. He bought it within 2 weeks, upgrading and adding on. You would not recognize it today. It is now the BP station and Dawson's Pier facility.
Yes, and then he hired Carper and Turnquist builders to erect an even grander and more sophisticated hotel across Highway B from the Gateway Inn before the inn's addition was even completed. There was custom-made furnishing, large timber beams, and oh, that fireplace was to die for.
As I was saying about the inn, King had a bear cage with a live bear all year round there. He even had some fawns, which he walked through the dining room in the inn.
But at the King's Gateway Hotel, now known as the Gateway Lodge, there were riding stables and an ice skating rink and a ski jump and a ski hill with this beautiful chalet, a mecca to the North Woods. And it brought more economy to Land O'Lakes too.
Life was good until I left him for the hereafter in 1946.
I know. Yeah, he was heartbroken. And that's why he visited the North Woods so often. Oh, but I just love thinking how we got together.
Oh my God, we have to go through this all again?
But it's so good, it just bears repeating. Well, goes like this. He was coming into Watersmeet all the time, and he came into the tavern and grill where I was working. And he heard my laments about not having the proper attire for a local dance. And to my surprise, a package came from John. Inside was a beautiful ball gown with all the fixings and a sweet note. He addressed me as Shug, and that nickname has stuck forever.
And then you married him and moved to California.
You make it sound so contrived.
Well, you were 33 years his junior, poor as a church mouse and poorly educated.
We just had 5 years together.
Oh, brother. Good thing I kept an eye on things here in Land O'Lakes. The King's Gateway Hotel was sold in 1961 to Walt Wilkinson. And by the 70s, the ski jump and the ski hill were no longer being used. Richter Ready Mix and Construction from Eagle River purchased the ski hill and chalet for the gravel that would created the hill. Recognizing the historical value of the chalet, Ed Richter preserved the building until the Land O'Lakes Historical Society could afford to purchase it, and it moved to its present location.
Shh! The spirits are right. Mischief is afoot. The hour has come.
The story that you are about to see has been a long time in the making. Suspend your cynicism, your disbeliefs regarding nebulous images, phantoms, wraith spirits, who are suspended between here and the thereafter. Just up the road in Paulding, Michigan, the ghost of a railroad worker who died while trying to switch the track shines a light of red, green, and white, visible in the evening. Farther up in the UP in Marquette, the Holy Cross, or Old City Orphanage, built in 1915 and abandoned in the mid-60s, is the scene of a young girl's terrible death. The crying of children is said to be heard if passing the building on a quiet night. The famous Summerwind Mansion on West Bay on the Cisco chain, 8 minutes from where we sit tonight, is the scene of ghoulish and ghostly visitations. It is considered to be the most specter-laden spot in the Badger State. Why then would we question the possibility of ghosts in this very place? The time is right, this very night, for some secrets to be let loose. Listen to the voices of the dead. Watch, and you might see something unusual. They clamor not only for company, but for answers.
is priceless. I'm only a volunteer here. The family, Roberta, will be beside themselves. Oh, what do I do? Call 911. I can do that.
One reading. Dispatch 911. 911, is this the party to whom I am speaking? What is your emergency?
The banjo has been stolen. The banjo has been stolen.
The banjo has been stolen?
Yes, the priceless pride of the museum. Robert Newcomb Marling's World War I banjo has been stolen. He was a war hero. You must know that.
Lucky for you, the sheriff is in Land O'Lakes. I'll send him over right now. That certainly is a crisis of epic proportions.
You are right about that. Oh, what to do? Nothing like this has ever happened before. And now it has happened on my watch. Maybe it was taken in the middle of the night. Maybe. No, there were no visitors this morning. Miss Twos will not be happy with me. Oh my, Sheriff! Oh, Sheriff, thank you for getting here so quickly. I can't believe all the strange things that have been happening in the museum. I see dead people. Ghosts, really?
Let me get this straight. Dispatch tells me that a banjo has been stolen. Other than that, I haven't been informed of any strange happenings or dead people. Not zombies. That would be frightening.
Not zombies. Ghosts. Definitely dead people. And yes, the absolutely priceless World War I banjo belonging to the highly decorated Robert Newcomb Marling is gone. It was taken, stolen. The banjo Marling took with him overseas to France, where he served in World War I as a very young man. He'd written the names of all the boys in his company and the battles they fought, even some drawings on the face of the banjo.
I see, priceless and irreplaceable. What kind of security system do you have in the museum? You've got important stuff stored here, right? So you've got camera footage we can look at?
No.
Well, then who was here last? Who had a key? Was anyone standing looking at it for a long period of time? Anything you can remember will be helpful. Don't hold back.
I don't know. I'm just a volunteer. Ever since this summer, when the parking lot was resurfaced with new gravel, strange things have been happening. I feel like someone's watching or close by, and I see things. Something must have been disturbed. You know this building has been disturbed before? It is the former ski chalet for the Gateway Lodge down the street. It was moved back in 2000 because Ed Richter wanted it moved for the high-quality gravel at the ski hill site. Who knows who they disturbed there? Who knows what they disturb now?
For this case, can we just stick to the facts, ma'am?
Don't you man me. I left working the Gateway because of the ghosts. And there are ghosts there. Really. Ever since I started working here, I see dead people. I really do.
You honestly can't that you see dead people. Ghosts.
Oh, you can't be here. You don't belong here. Go back to where you are, where you were from.
people, but that's just not a possibility.
They say no one was arrested for poisoning our food in 1850 when 3 of us died. Nobody called a sheriff to investigate back then. No wonder we can't get a good night's sleep.
What about me? Someone broke my neck. Nobody cared to find out who or why. Keeps me restless and wandering about. Well, they say I died of natural causes from pneumonia. But there really wasn't even any doctors back then. Somebody did me in. That's what.
I knew no one would do nothing back then. So here we are, restless and looking for answers where none can ever be fun.
What you gonna do, Sheriff?
I need more facts, man.
I see dead people, and they see me. It's pretty simple if you ask me. They left. Oh no. Oh no. Why is Barefoot Charlie here?
Just felt like coming around, hanging out at the old ski chalet. Lots of memories here in Land Lakes. And things that need explaining too. Not my job to do that. Talk about memories though. People always remember me walking around everywhere barefoot, winter and summer. There's a kid in these parts. He walks around barefoot too, just like me. He's a great musician. He could play that banjo that's missing. But I know he didn't take it. I wrote things at the bottom of my feet many a time to advertise my nightclub. I built a tavern, and then the restaurant and dance hall. Hell, even a museum! There was no other like it. Rustic and unique, just like me. People got pictures of it. And that's about it, 'cause it burnt to the ground. Clean to the ground. Yeah, I like to gamble and bootleg a little. Dress up in my buckskins and pose for pictures. They called me shameless. I didn't care and still don't. That's a great banjo, and it belonged to a very great man. I might know a thing or two, 'cause I seen a thing or two, but not my place to tell.
Charlie! Charlie, come back! Oh, Charlie, if you know something, please tell me.
Just the facts, ma'am. I need more facts. You say something happened with the resurfacing of the parking lot. Let's talk to the man responsible for that.
Mr. Chad Ramish. As a matter of fact, he is here today checking his work.
Great, let's get his opinion. Chad, where you at?
What's going on, Sheriff?
Well, hey, Chad, it seems like there's been a mystery going on here at the museum. Seems like Marley's World War I banjo got stolen clean out of here. Can you tell me about the job you guys did in the parking lot?
Sure, Sheriff. It was just a routine job. I'm not sure what the volunteers worried about. Took some gravel from the gravel pit. We didn't find anything unusual. It's not like we disturbed a graveyard or something. Just I hear stories all the time about ghost sightings and such at the gateway, but I paid no mind to it. I can tell you that we didn't hear or see anything strange. We didn't uncover any bones, and I just don't believe in any of it anyway.
You don't understand. I see dead people. Dead people from the Gateway Lodge. Not the people who have died who visited since the Gateway opened. The people who were killed at the Gateway and have never rested because their cases were never investigated or solved.
That's a little weird, ma'am. Please, just facts. Who else is here that could help us?
You don't understand. I see dead people. Oh no.
Hey, remember when? The Gateway used to have all those people that entertained. They came up from Milwaukee and Chicago on the train. There was a train station right here in town, just down the street. And all kinds of people came up to show visitors of the Gateway a good time. None of the folks living here today would believe it.
It was pretty fancy, all right. The likes of which people don't see up here anymore. Those were some pretty good times. Oh, we saw things we could never have imagined when we were among the living. Remember when those funny guys, Abbott and Costello, came and they were talking about who's on first? No, who's on third? About this game, baseball or something like that. We had no idea. They had some crazy talk going on, but the audience loved it.
But you know they give baseball players nowadays very peculiar names. A lot of funny names. You know, like, well, let's see now. We have on our team, we have who's on first, what's on second, I don't know who's on third. That's what I want to find out, the guy's name. That's what I want to find out, the guy's name. I'm telling you, who's on first, what's on second, I don't know who's on third. You want to be the manager of the baseball team? Yes. You know the guy's name? Why, sure. Well, you told me the guy's name on the baseball team. I say, who's on first, what's on second, I don't know who's on third. You ain't saying nothing to me yet. Go ahead and tell me. I'm telling you. You ain't saying nothing yet. Go ahead and tell me. Who's on first, what's on second, I don't know is on third. You know the guy's name for the baseball team? Go ahead. Who's on first? Yes. I mean the guy's name. Who? The guy playing first. Who? The guy playing first base. Who? Who is on first? What are you asking me,
Yeah, remember when we kind of hung out by the bar and peeked around the corner to see this movie star, Mitzi Gaynor? And she kept saying that she had danced her way to the Gateway?
In olden days, a glimpse of stalking was something shocking. Now heaven knows anything goes. Good authors too, who once knew better words, now only use three-letter words. Writing prose, anything goes.
Remember when Bob Hope showed up with his golf club and thanked people for the memories? He loved golfing out there at King's Golf Course too.
Thanks for the memory of sentimental verse, nothing in my purse, and chuckles when the preacher said, for better or for worse, thank you so much.
Hey, remember when that Lawrence Welk fella came with his orchestra? And a one, and a two, and all those bubbles.
smiles at me. A one, two, and
You gotta remember, when Biagio Calaveri, a very famous local accordion player, was at the gateway, whenever he heard a song, he would say, "I know that song. I wrote Well, the volunteer has got it right. The ghost she is talking about is not one of us, but one of their very own. We have nothing to do with what's going on right here, right now.
Oh, sorry. I must be seeing things. It all seems so real. But are you sure, Sheriff, you didn't hear or see anything right now?
No. Nothing unusual, but you definitely seem more than a little shaken up. Are you okay? Well, then is there anyone else who can shed some light on this?
Of course. Why didn't I think of her before? It's the president of the Historical Society, Chris Tooze. I am afraid that she's going to blame me. We haven't ever had anything like this happen before.
Please call her.
Perfect timing. She's just arrived. I can't believe she's going to have to hear about the missing banjo. She'll break it to her gently.
Miss Tooze, I'm glad you arrived just now. I'm sorry to tell you that as of this morning, the World War I banjo is surprisingly and suddenly missing. Your volunteer here called it in.
No, Sheriff, I hadn't heard. Oh my, this is such distressing news.
Well, Miss Tooze, we will do everything in our power and do our best to find it. I'm trying to collect information here, but so far there seems to be nothing to go on. Have you noticed anything odd or any unexplained occurrences since the parking lot was resurfaced?
Actually, no, I haven't. But our volunteer has been acting in a very distracted sort of way lately. She's very skittish and stares into empty space. I would imagine that she is daydreaming, except that these episodes leave her most upset and distraught. She refuses to discuss what is going on and constantly talks about seeing dead people.
Miss Tooze, it is a terrible event when something has been stolen from the museum, and we will get to the bottom of it. I know your volunteer here is innocent of any crime. Honestly, though, I do believe she needs some professional help.
Why don't you listen to me? Why don't you listen to them? Oh, this can't be. I don't believe it. He's here. He came back after all this time.
Yep. Robert Newcomb Marley is here, and he did come back. It took him a while to figure it out, where that banjo ended up after all those years.
Ooh, you'll get some rest now. His wandering days are over.
I needed my old friend here. Nothing's been the same without him. spent 17 months over in France during World War I, the war to end all wars. Driving my old 5-ton Pierce Arrow truck as part of the American Red Cross Ambulance Company. I took my tenor banjo here with me to the training and then overseas. I strummed this banjo and sang to forget the horrors of the 9 major engagements, plus 6 months to rehabilitate war-torn northeastern France. I'm glad I made it back. A lot of the other guys didn't. I've never forgotten them or those brave people of France. Glad I found this old banjo too. Not ever leaving him behind again. Now I can make my way to where I belong. I've come full circle.
Wisconsin? A bit too spooky for me. It's making me think that in a few days I might actually see zombies. Let's get out here and see this Bob.
performing for a real audience and buy some solo cups. Thank you.